Session. Good evening and welcome, Rotary friends, especially our District Governor-elect, Rudy, and past District Governor John Gilvasey. It's great that you're here too. My name is Patricia DeMack and I'm a member of Rotary Burlington Lakeshore and the co-chair of this event as a member of the District Training Committee. So on behalf of the District Training Committee and our fantastic AV team, and especially my fabulous co-chair, Suzanne Zbinden, we welcome you. We're so glad you're here. We have worked hard to pull great speakers together for your training and enlightenment during this coming week. Thank you for signing up for this session. We know you will not be disappointed. Just for the record, it is being recorded, so you can watch it again on demand. And I would suggest you let your fellow club members know that they can see it also. It'll be uploaded in a couple of days, and you'll find the link to all the recorded sessions on the page that you used to sign up. It's our pleasure to hear from our District Vocational Service Chair, Ute. She is the immediate past president of my club, Rotary Burlington Lakeshore. And in a few minutes, Ute will tell you a little more about herself and her great panel. First, I just go over, for a few seconds, I'll go over a few things that you should know. You are to remain muted, please, all participants during the session. I'm sure that you love your doggies and your nice ringtone and everything, but we don't want to hear any background noise. If there's time for live Q&A at the end of the session, you can unmute yourself then. But in the meantime, if you have a question or a comment during the session, please post it in the chat box. And one of our team will collate those questions and we'll make sure they get answered by the team, the panel, before the end of the session. So as I say, put them in the chat room and we'll make sure that all of your questions get answered. A last note, all of the sessions this coming week and already the ones that we had on the weekend will be recorded and they'll be up for on-demand viewing for anybody that wants to see them. And the remaining sessions are still open for registration. So as you go to your various meetings this week, encourage your other club members to register. It's not too late and we've got some really great sessions to sign up for. So without any further chit chat from me, my good friend Ute is leading this vocational service session. Over to you, Ute.
Thank you, Patricia. Can you see my screen? I just shared that. Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Patricia, for a great introduction. I hope I can meet all the expectations you set in your introduction. And thank you for your team for doing an outstanding job for organizing this event. My name is Ute, and Patricia already mentioned I've been the past president of the Burlington Lakeshore, and I'm currently the vocation director for 780 for vocational. Part of Jananee, who you probably all know because it seems like she's volunteering for about everything in Rotary, and she's been an interactor, rotor actor, and she seems like just to be doing so much. She's currently the president of Rotary Passport Club South. She's the past president of Rotary Club of Mississauga, and she's a district assistant. She's an amazing member on my team. And I have three other members on my team, which is Navneet, Cameron, and Jancy, and they're rotor actors, and boy, do they bring energy to vocational. And they're asking me questions, they challenge me, and they have great ideas. You will meet two of them in the breakout session. Unfortunately, Jancy cannot make it because of some family issues. But what a pleasure, and I'm so excited for you two guys to meet them. So what is vocational services? It's interesting. If you ask 5 different Rotarians, you will get 5 different answers. And sometimes the emotional response can be between excitement and boredom. well, I hope I'm inspiring you. So let's just look at it. Vocational Services calls every Rotarian to work with integrity and I'm sorry, I'm getting nervous with you guys. Vocational Services calls on every Rotarian to work with integrity and contribute his and her expertise to the problems and needs of society, which means we're bringing our expertise to the community, youth, and the world at large. How do we serve to change our lives? We bring ourselves to the table. Basically, if I look and think about myself as a Rotarian, I bring my profession and skills. I am an accountant, a business coach, a business owner, and I have other skills as gardener, as organizer, as networker, and a little bit as a nerd. It is all an intricate part that I bring to Rotary, and the same do you. I really like what Rudy Habish, our district governor-elect, said on Saturday morning at his presentation. He's a realtor by profession and a Rotarian by vocation. And I believe that summarizes vocational. Getting a little bit in the more technical part and what I consider the boring one is kind of like, where's vocational is coming from? Well, vocational has been embedded deeply in Rotary. It is part of the object of Rotary's philosophical statement and of Rotary's purpose and the responsibility of all Rotarians. The concept of vocational service is rooted in the second objective, which calls on Rotarians to encourage and foster high ethical standards in business and profession, the recognition of the worthiness of all useful occupation, the dignifying of each Rotarian's occupation as an opportunity to serve society. As a Rotarian, I know when I meet anyone and they're Rotarians, they have the same ethical framework as me, and that is based on the code of conduct and in the four-way test. Those are two amazing pieces that I know when I meet a Rotarian, they think and have the same ethical belief as me. The four-way test was conceived in 1932 by a businessman, Herbert Taylor. He was a member of the Rotary Club in Chicago, and he had the task of helping a company not to go bankrupt, and he succeeded by using this test. In 1934, this test was adopted by Rotary International, and it's still of great benefits to all of us. So vocational services, it's one of the 5 avenues of service. We are all so familiar with club services, community service, international, and youth. And often, as I said before, vocational is sort of well, what is it? Well, really, vocational services runs through all 4 of them. And you're probably already doing a lot of vocational services without even realizing that you're doing it. And vocational services calls on every Rotarian to work with integrity and contribute their expertise to the problem and needs of society. So let's have a look. Vocational service and club services. We're really already doing it, but we may not call it vocational services. We have the classification talk at our club. We sometimes tour members' businesses. Some clubs, especially outside of our district, actually do networking events. We join Rotary fellowships or action group, or volunteer with our profession to do something. And there are many other ideas, which I actually have a document that I'd be happy to share later on, that you can see other ideas. Community services, where's vocational in there? Well, some clubs do mentorships with new Canadians, with veterans, or recovering addicts. We're using our profession to help others. We can support the aged or the underprivileged. We can do mentorship by teaching people how to write a resume or do interview skills. In international services, often we looked at vocational teams going overseas and helping medically, professionally, by doing engineering, nursing tasks. Now, with the new technology of Zoom, how we all became familiar with it, we can actually create international service projects using Zooms by mentoring professionally or even women in business. And the ideas are really big out there. And then youth. We often think about vocational services for youth. We have awards program, career seminars. We could actually help the youth with mock job interviews, essay writings, and how to do what the four-way test is all about. And of course, many of you are familiar with RILA, Camp Enterprise, and Interact. So we have 4 breakout rooms, and I would like to invite you to join us in the breakout rooms. Cameron is going to host club services. Navneet will do international services, and Jananee is doing youth services. So please join us in the breakout room, and we will have a lively discussion in what you have just heard from me. Thank you.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. So I had a nice breakout session with about 8 people. We were doing youth services. I just wanted to say a huge shout out. There were 2 people that were pretty new to Rotary. So I think it's phenomenal that you've signed up for club leadership training and are taking on an active role to learn more about different opportunities. So I just really wanted to shout that out because I thought that was great. In terms of youth services, a summary really is we had we also had John Gilvasi in our room, so he was great to start it off, and I'll share my story actually about that in a bit. But we spoke about Camp Enterprise, which I know most clubs are familiar with, and I know that's a popular program that many Rotary clubs do. Unfortunately, it's put on hold, but hopefully it will start back up next year. And we had people talk about RILA, which is another program that people do. People send a student to RILA every year, and that's a program that the district hosts. Again, put on hold, but hopefully it will pick back up. But with things that are going in the school, it's really great to hear that one club in Fergus Elora still has their Interact program going on and it's active. I was really glad to hear that, especially with the changes in COVID and how that's affected school clubs. So I think what I've heard a little bit about our summary is it's a bit hard to do youth services right now, just with the COVID policies and connecting with the high schools and the elementary schools. But it's really also neat to see the clubs being resilient and still having their Interact programs active or starting mentorship programs, which a couple of other members were talking about that they did. On our food for thought list, we had Robert from the Fergus Club want to know a bit more about the essays on the 4-way test. I'm not sure if any club does that, and okay, there's someone who's going to chime in later from Guelph, but that's a really interesting one to maybe think about with the schools on how we can introduce Interact and Rotaract through an essay competition. And the other one was about scholarships, was food for thought, scholarships to students, and working with the schools to make sure scholarships are going to the students that may have a financial need. So that was also a food for thought. And I guess to finish off, I'll share John's story and my story really. John started the session saying, well, his youth service role was hiring me as district assistant, which I thought was a phenomenal opportunity. That was something that district decided to do to get a youth person involved to help out in the district. They put out like an ad that you would do for any job posting, and they got my attention because I was an interactor and a Rotaractor, and I was very passionate about Rotary. Business was my background, and I thought it would be a cool way to put together what I was doing in school and my passion. So definitely look into, I think that would be a way of mentorship, or looking into maybe how Rotary clubs can do some apprenticeship opportunities within their companies, because that's a great way to get Rotaractors and Rotarians. So that's my summary. On to the next group.
So, which is group number 2?
It would be Cameron, I believe.
I believe Claudia's trying to speak.
Oh, I didn't even realize I wasn't muted.
Sorry. Yeah,
Go ahead,
that's our
Claudia.
club services. Thank you, Jananee. You're so eloquently in explaining how you group did so far. So you put the bar very high for me. We had an interesting conversation about how club services can kind of support the vocational services, and it was also kind of try to explain what vocational services actually meant for the individual and for the club. Cam mentioned the classification talk, how people introduce themselves and tell something about their personal and professional skills. Manish is a dentist, and he mentioned that he's seeing so many patients and gets a really good feeling with the community and what happens in the community. Patricia explained that people have organization skills. They know about logistics and planning, and that is, of course, a great part of club services. That is kind of the machinery of the club, as how she put it. So Cam also stressed it's not only professional skills, it's what we bring in as an individual. Could be public speaking. And Louise, who has been in the travel business, brings in a lot of organization skills. She was able to put all her expertise in the Zoom sessions, which was obviously very important in this last year. She also stressed that it is so important to kind of connect the people that are retired and want to bring in their professional skills with the younger members that are actually just started, but the chemistry within brings us to a higher level. Diane thought it was really important to give the meaning to the 4-way test, and to vote quality time is how you could apply that. To make a very long story a little bit shorter because of the time, I guess, Andrew, who was actually earned the most seniority of our team with 50 years of Rotary years, I was almost blown away by that. He said, in the beginning, you had to have a profession to qualify to be in part of Rotary, because you were able to get things done. So I think he just, knocked the nail on the head. I think that's what we are, right? People that get things done.
I like that line. We are people that get things done.
That's amazing.
Thank you. And then going on to Naveed's group. Do you have a representative, or you're doing it?
We do. We have Clarence speaking for us.
Nice.
And Clarence, you could just unmute.
There it is. Okay. So we had an international group, and I guess the really neat thing is we had 2 Rotaractors in our group who both joined in large part because of international and their interest in international. So that was neat. As we talked about the wide range of projects that we have in our district, some of which have vocational aspects and some of which are more from a funding aspect. So talk a little bit about some of the opportunities to actually do vocational work as part of international. And there was a couple of examples put out even here. Some of the clubs are making mats and mattresses out of milk bags, and those going overseas, which uses some of our talents, or collecting and repairing bicycles and sending those to areas. Some of those kind of things. Talking about the Rotary Foundation training and the importance of that for any club. But I think it was a good discussion. I'm not sure we came to any particular conclusions, but certainly a big part of it, I think, is that we may not think about vocational international connected, and certainly I tend to think international is our club funding projects or working with other clubs to fund projects, and not necessarily that much vocational aspect. And maybe that's something that we need to work on to connect that better.
Thanks. Thank you very much. A lot of food for thought I find through all the discussion. And then going to my group, and Mary is going to present it.
Yeah, thanks, Ute. Yeah, we had some great discussions. Some of the things that are being done right now, one of the clubs has support for the aged, which was one of the things that Ute had talked about, where they have an annual dinner for seniors, senior veterans. They also have a veterans breakfast. And somebody else suggested that maybe we could invite veterans to meetings and help them to network with our networks, as well as other people that we know, to maybe help them get employment, help them with resume writing and interview skills and things like that. We also talked about asking our own members if they know of any experts in specific fields. So if we're wanting to get some speakers to come in, do they know somebody if in a field that's similar to that or in that industry, or if they themselves can be a speaker on a particular topic that we want. I had talked about a couple of things that our club is doing. We do a vocation minute in place of the reclassification talks, because we find we just never have time to get them done, where we ask a member to spend 5 minutes just talking about their vocation and how they got there, what education they need, and then tying it to the 4-way test. We also talked about creating a superpowers spreadsheet to find out what all of the skill sets are of all of our members. So I was sharing that with the group, and a couple people said they wanted the spreadsheet. So I will put together a raw spreadsheet and make it available for everybody. But what we did was we took a meeting and we actually asked people to fill in all of their skill sets, whether they're project management. And so we just have like a big spreadsheet of all kinds of skills. And then we found out so many things about a lot of members. And then we use that to identify when we're building up committees, what kind of skills do we have within our club. We also talked about a consortium. I think it was in the Guelph area for food for kids. It started with food for kids, but then starting to figure out what all the skill sets were and the talents of a lot of the people that were working through that. And it spun off onto some other initiatives into mental health. One of the people had talked about, when they found out that she had funds development skills, she now does additional things for food for kids based on that. We talked about Camp Enterprise. And another interesting one was tapping into the vocational schools. So the schools that are not for academics, but more for vocation. They have some of their volunteers actually go in annually and help scribe for the students so that they can pass and get their high school degrees if they have literacy problems. And then also tapping into some of the speakers that we get and then offering our skills. So for example, somebody had talked about human trafficking was one that had come up, and somebody offered their skills for counseling. So kind of, helping out with some of the speakers that we get. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Mary. And thank you much, everybody who scribed and presented, and for the really good participation in the breakout rooms. And I just want to share my screen for a second again. So you see the screen that says my contact information. Can someone confirm that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So there's a lot of good stuff that came out of that. And we have a couple resources that we are going to share with district, and it will be posted with the video. So you can download it hopefully in a couple days. Two of them, the Introduction to Vocational Services and the Vocational Service in Action, are documentations from Rotary International, and I will attach it. And then I collected ideas and created a paper to share ideas that you have. Plus you had already the ideas that came up. There's some amazing opportunities that the clubs are doing and that we can tap in and do even more often. Maybe we had actually a call a couple weeks ago just to share ideas, and that was my team felt it was a really great call, and maybe that is something else we can as a district have with people who are interested down the road. So I hand it over to Patricia. She has collected a couple of questions, I think, and maybe we can do some questions and answers. You're muted.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Thanks, Ute. And amazingly, and I would take this as a huge compliment to you and your team, I don't have any questions. I've had compliments from people saying, what a great session, this is informative. And I would like to offer the opportunity for people who, if they've got a live question, if they'd like to speak on screen and ask a question of Ute or her panel. We've got a few minutes left, so absolutely no issue with time. Now, I can't see. Please pop your name into the chat box. It's kind of frustrated me in the past to not totally understand what vocational service is. So I went out and did my own research and realized how huge it is. And Cam led such a great session in the breakout room where we talked about every single skill we have should be brought to the table, not just our professional skill, whether you're a medical person or a fitness instructor or a construction person, whatever you are. We are so much more than our professions, that we bring skills to the table and they should all be used. And I think that's the greatest meaning of vocational service. And then secondly, to take the principles of Rotary, including the four-way test, out into our workplace. So it's a two-way channel of beneficial meaning for everybody, that the principles we embrace in Rotary, the four-way test and so on, we take that out into our workplace so that people trust us and know us by our reputation. Oh, and I have a question pop up from Diane. Talking about classifications, is there a move by Rotary away from using that term? Some clubs don't even seem to use it or pay attention to tracking it anymore. Do you want to respond to that, Ute?
Well, it's a good question. And to be honest, I have not heard that. So I'm not informed on this. Maybe there's someone else here on the call, and maybe I'll pass.
Can I do this?
Please, Andrew. I'm so happy that you're on the call. I'm so excited about that.
I missed the meeting because I hadn't registered. I didn't get. We had a session before that, and I hope I'm not wasting everybody's time because we're going to have a conversation. Classification, or the lack of classification, really concerns me. I come from the good old glory days of Rotary, when everybody had a classification. Now, to me, a classification is a badge or certification of your vocation. I can't really see that you can have proper vocational service without being certified as having a vocation. And also what that does is it builds your self-confidence and standing in the club, that you have a classification, you have some sort of credentials to be there. And I've looked at the lists of the, I've had this, my concerns have been basically membership over the last decade. You know, why is Rotary shrinking? And one of the things I notice in the district is most of the clubs don't have classifications for any of the members. Some clubs have classifications for some members, and I think there's only 3 clubs in the district that everybody shows a classification. So if you don't show a classification, you are far, far from being able to understand what vocational service is all about, because that is key. And it also is key to membership. You know, you're looking for people who are important, experienced. And how do you know they're important, experienced? Because they have a classification. There's nothing to be ashamed about a classification. There's nothing to be ashamed that your classification may be a lot better than your neighbors. You had a job, you had a career, you know something, and put it down there that that's what you're used to be good at. And everybody in the club then has a classification. One of the things I used to love, I used to visit a lot of Rotary clubs in about 3 continents. And every time I traveled, when I always hit a Rotary club 20 or 30 years ago, I knew exactly who I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with people who have a classification, who have a career, who have a job. They're not happy-go-lucky wanderers looking for money or flower children, trying to improve something on an idealistic basis. They were businessmen, they were professionals, they had an occupation, and they had a vocation. Mm-hmm. So that's my beef with the lack of classification.
So thank you, Andrew. That's a very good. So Diane, to answer to that, I truly believe classification, as Andrew is saying, it's part of our vocation. I don't know if Rotary International is moving away from the actually talk on it. I'm happy to look into it and get back to you, but I really believe vocation is who we are, and the classification lets everybody know who we are.
Just a quick note here. Rotary International is not moving away from classifications.
Okay, thanks.
They're also not saying to clubs that don't utilize classifications that you can't do that. Okay. So it's up to the club. If it works in your club, then it works. If it's an issue, then they're giving the clubs the leeway to make that decision on their own.
Mm-hmm.
I believe classification is specifically mentioned in the Rotary constituent documents.
Hey, can I speak?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Sorry.
We have name badges at least when we used to meet in the club, physically get together before COVID, and the person's name and their classification is on that name badge.
Yeah.
And that especially helps the new members because, they don't know everybody. They don't know the person's history that Andy was talking about. So it's a quick introduction to who they are, what they do.
I'd like to just interject here for a second, if that's all right, that our club uses the same idea, David. We have our classifications on our name badges. And I think the overriding principle behind it is that we have diversity. So if we have somebody apply to be a member who's, let's say, in financial planning or real estate, and I'm the membership director in my club. And so if we already have a pool of those people, we have to make sure that we accept that diversity or what have you. Now, we're a big club, so we can afford having people in the same profession. But the most important part behind the classification system is that you don't have a club full of lawyers, and you don't have a club full of engineers or whatever, that there's diversity. And I fully appreciate and enjoy that diversity. So I think from my opinion, classification is valid.
And it's Clarence Taverson here. I guess the only thing I would say, and I agree with the need to have a good variety, but I think we shouldn't necessarily confuse our careers or our classification with what we are actually good at. So I guess I have a lot of vocational skills that do not stem from my paid career. Excellent. And so I think vocation goes way beyond classification.
Yeah. Can I present a couple of questions to Ute and her panel that have come up in the chat box?
Please.
From Cam, he says he's always learning. Does the vocation initiative relate to members that want to grow and develop towards particular vocational skills, or is it only related to what you're already good at? Good question.
Funny enough, that question was actually for me, so I don't think I would
No,
be able to answer it.
It's a good question.
It's a good question. Well, I find it's the same as mentorship right now. So you are joining Rotary because you're an engineer and those are the skills you're bringing to it. But if you are interested in skills that are more in a planning or an organization, wouldn't it be great you find some mentor that has those skills and work with them to get there? So it's kind of, we have a network of people. Why not use the network of people that have all these skills within Rotary to help each other, right? So that's what I see. And then also use these skills to mentor people in the community and the world at large.
Great response, Ute. Thank you. If everybody looks in the chat box, Louise has posted a classification assessment worksheet. She belongs to the Kitchener Rotary Club. And before the meeting ends, you may want to copy that link that she's provided. And then I also have a question from Diane. She says, helpful discussion, maybe from a club service perspective, the value of quotes classification needs to be explained to members. Maybe a specific meeting dealing with that. Great suggestion, Diane. What would you say to that, Ute?
I would be always open to talk further. And Diane, you got my email. We can connect. We can also talk, like set up another Zoom call with a group of people and talk about classification talk and why.
It would be a great guest speaker type topic at any Rotary meeting. Yeah. We're almost ready to call the meeting to a close. If there are any other questions, be quick, folks. You've only got a moment.
I have a little comment, Patricia, if you don't mind. Mahmoud from the Rotary Club of Guelph. Something I did not mention in the breakout rooms. In our club, we have a retired engineer, so that's his classification, but he's an artist. So he's a painter and sculptor. And he offers, and we do it every 2 months, paint night. So if you use Google, please don't allow Google to write it pain night. It is paint. There's T. There's T at the end. And so we invited youth from across the area, adults as well, from as far away as Seattle and California, and they participated. And there's hundreds of people across. So if you want to participate, look it up in our club, Rotary Club of Guelph, paint night.
And I wanted, that's a great suggestion, Mahmoud. And I also wanted to say, you got my email address there. Please connect with me. I'm happy to also talk to you guys and how district can help you. How can we, even from the point of district, create something bigger? Considering we have technology right now, we can create something that is internationally, we can do more with the community because we have the technology to reach out into further spaces. So please stay in touch. And thank you very much for joining. And thank you very much to my team to helping me out here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
All right.
On behalf of the training, on behalf of the training committee, I'd like to really thank Ute and her panel tonight. What a great dynamic presentation. And I'm sure it's opened lots of doors for people as far as thought-provoking comments that will take you further down this road of vocational service. Wondering, no more wondering, folks. You've got some really great meat and potatoes here to chew on since this presentation. I congratulate you, Ute, and your panel on such a great vocational service presentation. And I'll just remind everybody that this has been recorded and will be uploaded within the next day or two, that you can watch it again. And it's not too late to register for the rest of these great sessions for Club Leadership Training 2021. So if you have any questions, please present them to the training committee or to myself. And thank you all for attending tonight. We will look forward to your feedback. Please remember to give us your feedback. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.